is enough! I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane! Everybody strap in! I'm about to open some fucking windows.
What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing you TCG deck profile. Now, this is an extension from last week where I was doing Discord deck submissions, and this is one that I was not able to quite get to last week, so I wanted to bring it to you this week. So, starting on the week off, we're going to be basically finishing last week's stuff. And this week I am also doing something where I'm not going to be doing the little games that I've been doing as of recent. I am a little bit on a strict schedule this week where I am going to be going to a regional sometime soon, so I do want to get my practice in. So I don't really have as much time in order to properly get these games and get the testing footage done. So I'm only going to be doing deck profiles this week, so sorry about that, y'all. But that's enough yapping. Let's get into the deck profile. We're playing pure Mitsurugi. This deck is actually quite competent, as shown in multiple events as of recent. And let's just go down the list. This is a ritual summon strategy based on reptiles. You'll see some jank stuff in here. You know how I be. So, we're starting off our list. We're on triple of the new card, Mitsurugi no Mikoto Aramasa. Mitsurugi Aramasa. And on normal or special, or if it's tributed, we can add a Mitsurugi monster from our deck to our hand except for itself. If another reptile we control be destroyed by battle or card effect, that's the Mitsurugi effect where you contribute it instead. We're also on double copies of Saji on normal or special, or on tribute we can add a Mitsurugi spell or trap, and double copies of Kusanagi on ritual, normal, or if it's tributed, normal, or special, we can target a Mitsurugi card in our graveyard or banishment except for itself and add it back to our hand. We're also on one copy of Mitsurugi the Kaiju, which is pretty good for outing problematic cards, as well as triple copies of Ame no Habakiri no Mitsurugi, which is just a hero lives for the deck. It just summons a Mitsurugi from your deck, which is crazy. It's really good. Of course, that's a once per duel, but you only need to do it once. So that also means we can cut down on our Mitsurugis, which is why we're only playing 2 of Saji, because we are basically able to just get them out of deck whenever we want to with Habakiri. We're also on one copy of Murakamo, which is just like a field nuke, and then it's a negate. Except it doesn't work against Nibiru, which I think is incredibly funny. And one copy of Mitama. This card reads, you can ritual summon with a Mitsurugi ritual. If your opponent special summons a monster, except in a damage step, we can target a reptile in our graveyard, except for itself, and special summon it. We can only activate that effect once per chain. If this card is tributed, we can add a Mitsurugi card from our deck to our hand, except for itself, and then we can special summon this card from the graveyard. And that second effect is a once per turn. Card is quite strong, allows us to access the different points of Mitsurugi, all off of a ritual summon, and it basically just continuously floats itself, which is pretty damn strong. That's it for our Mitsurugi monsters. We're on very few monsters, to be completely honest, for an actual in-archetype engine, especially a ritual one. But now let's cover our spells and traps, which are incredibly strong. We're on triple copies of the OG Mitsurugi Ritual. This card can be used to ritual summon any reptile ritual monster. The only ones we're going to be summoning is the Mitsurugis, at least as of right now. And we can activate one of these effects, but we can only activate each effect once per turn. Ritual summon one ritual reptile ritual from our deck by tributing reptiles from our hand or field whose total levels equal to the level of the ritual monster. Or ritual summon a reptile from our hand by tributing 2 reptiles from our hand or deck or field whose total levels equal to the original level. Really great effect. Basically, it is like a really weird advanced ritual art where we're basically able to, either if we have the ritual in our hand, we can use materials from deck, or we have the materials in hand or field or whatever, we can get the ritual from deck. So incredibly useful. So we're on triple copies of this. We're also on triple copies of Mitsurugi Prayers. When you activate this effect, you can also tribute a reptile in your hand or field to apply one of these effects, which is really strong given our Mitsurugis activating their on-summon effects when they're tributed. And this card can either add a Mitsurugi card from our deck to our hand, or take 800 damage and special summon our Mitsurugi from our hand or graveyard, but it can't attack directly. If we tributed a reptile, of course, we can do both of those in sequence. Very strong card. As a quick effect, you can see why this card's quite good. We're on double copies of Mitsurugi Mirror. This is the new one. This card can be used to ritual summon any reptile ritual from our hand or graveyard. We must also tribute monsters from our hand or field whose total levels equal to or exceed the level of the ritual monster. And if Ame no Murakumo, Futsu no Mitama, and Habikiri we control is tributed while this card's in our graveyard, we can shuffle this card into the deck. You know, pretty ass tier effect, to be completely honest. However, because it mentions all of those cards by name in the text, we can run pre-prep. And pre-prep can search this plus any of our Mitsurugi rituals, which is really strong. Now you'd be like, why are we running pre-prep but only 2 mirror and a lot of rituals? Because the mirror puts itself back. Even if we go through all of our mirrors, we can put itself back and just use it, like search another one, you know? Not too big of a deal. We're also on 1 copy of Mitsurugi Magatama. During the main phase, activate one of these effects. It is a quick play spell, so this is either main phase. Tribute a reptile monster, then target a face-up card our opponent controls and destroy it. Again, tributing will trigger our Mitsurugis. Or ritual summon a Mitsurugi ritual from our hand by tributing monsters we control whose total levels equal or exceed the level. Really good for getting Mitsurugi rituals on our field during our opponent's turn, especially when it comes to Ame no Murakamo, which again is just Raigeki. We're also on 1 copy of the Trap, Great Purification, and then we're on a triple pre-prep, 1 copy of Reptilian Kotal. I think this card's very funny. Is it good? Probably not, but funny it is. This is a reptile tuner. It's a freebie. If we have a reptile, we can just summon it from hand. A dark reptile specifically, but you know, everything in this deck is a dark reptile, so not really super important. And it's functionally just a level 4 extender. That's also a tuner. So we can go into Reptilian Melusine, which I think is really quite cool, and I'll explain the reasoning once we get to it. For non-engine, we're on double copies of Thrust, 1 copy of Talents, and 1 copy of Call by the Grave for Hand Trap Mitigation. Thrust is really powerful in this deck, especially since you're able to grab pre-prep specifically, or the trap. Of course, those are pretty much the only 2 targets you're realistically going to be grabbing, although we do have additional targets, of course, of Talents and Dominus Impulse. For hand traps, we're on triple copies of Ash Blossom, triple copies of Fool Loss, and triple copies of Dominus Impulse, since we're pretty much an all-dark deck, and we're trying our absolute hardest to make sure we're playing every single card we're playing is going to be able to be played underneath of this Dominus Impulse. Fun fact about Charming Fulos, it's a 4. You've heard me say that a bunch. It's a 4. We can use it to ritual summon any of the Mitsurugis with any Mitsurugi, and a Fool Loss, we have an 8. So, quite useful there. But that's it for our main deck, a nice solid 40. Now let's cover our extra. Our extra is going to be very loose, to be completely honest. You can kind of put whatever you want in here other than King of the Fair Olymps and like staple cards like SP Little Knight. So I decided I wanted to lean a little bit more into the reptile slop aspect of the deck, where we're trying to play as many reptiles in the extra deck as possible. Does that mean the reptiles are good? No, of course not. Like, reptiles suck. Like, pretty much all the time, reptiles are one of the worst types you could be playing. Maybe, I don't know, Aqua? No, mermaids are good. There's probably some other ass type other than reptile, but to my mind, reptile is the first thing that comes up when you think of ass types. So we're on 1 Haggard Lizardos in order to draw cards. It's also a water for Dominus Impulse. 1 copy of Reptilian Echidna. This card's actually pretty cool. The use case is it's just Rhoda, pretty much. If this card's linked, someone we can target a face-up monster our opponent controls, change attack to 0. That's permanent. Ignition effect during our main phase. If our opponent controls a monster with 0 attack, we can add reptile monsters with different names from our deck to our hand, up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 0 attack. Typically, just going to be 1 off of its own effect. And then you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for reptile monsters, which is why we're trying to go into that reptile mash deck, like specifically for the extra deck, because we're kind of locked into like ass cards from our extra deck anyway, so might as well make sure we have an abundance of ass cards to pick from, you know. We're also on 1 copy of Ragnarok's Lean Snapper. It is a reptile. It just needs 2+ insect, plants, and or reptiles, so pretty much all reptiles. And we can banish up to 2 monsters from our graveyard, trigger them on any spell traps on our opponent controls, and destroy them. If it's in our graveyard, we can control an insect, plant, or reptile. We can put the insect, plant, or reptile we control in the bottom of the deck, and then special summon this card from the graveyard. So, and then we're locked into insect, plants, and reptiles for the rest of the turn. Again, playing into that extra deck reptile slop. We're also 1 copy of Ragnarok Chain Coils. Again, another reptile, same conditions pretty much as Ragnarok's Lean Snapper, except this effect says as our opponent activates a monster effect, except during the damage step, we can activate this effect. Either player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand this turn. Typically, this is going to be used in order to turn off hand traps or like weird gimmicks that activate from hand, although it is quite useful against certain decks like Ryziel, specifically in reference to ice activating from your opponent's hand by discarding a card. It's also good against Fiendschmidt, and a bunch of other just generic cards. Monsters be activating in the hand. Malice P. March Hare activates in hand. Being able to just turn those off and our opponent not realizing we're turning those off is pretty useful. We're on 1 SP, 1 IP, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Abow, and 1 Nightmare Penis. We're also on an access code talker, and let's get to more reptiles. 2 copies of King of the Feral Imps. We're also on a copy of Bogusker, the Terribly Tired Tapir, and 1 copy of Reptilian Millicene. Now, this card I was brewing, I actually really like this card a lot. It needs a reptile, tuner, and a non-tuner monster. It's an 8. If this card was synchro summoned using only reptile monsters as material, which we're ideally going to be doing, it just needs Mitsurugi and then the Kotal, which is a free special summon. This card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, full stop. What deck does that counter? Ryziel. It means they have to waste an aggregator to negate the face-up Melusine that's not doing anything in order to actually get over it. Because Ryziel otherwise doesn't realistically have an in-archetype out to get rid of the Melusine. This card also reads, once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect except during the damage step, a quick effect, target a face-up monster opponent controls, changes attack to 0, that is permanent. If this synchro summon card you control is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, you can add a reptile from your deck to your hand. So if they do manage to out it, it's just Rhoda. Also, it pairs incredibly well with Echidna. If we manage to get Melusine out first, and then, for example, in the best case scenario, change 5 monsters on the field to 0 attack and defense, right? Or just 4, And then during our turn, we turn the Melusine and a random Mitsurugi into an Echidna. We can then Echidna search 5, Is that going to happen? Oh, most definitely not. We're never going to be doing that. But the attack change does allow it to basically maintain our life points even longer, even though this card isn't just sticky to get rid of, it also makes our opponent's cards not really do anything to proactively reduce our life points. And then the last card in our extra deck is 1 copy of Typhon. In our side deck, we're on double Perulia, triple Droll, triple Lancia, the last Thrust in there, 1 copy of D-Barrier, triple copies of Light Imprisoning Mirror. I'd expect a lot of people to start playing this card now that Ryziel is still around, Fiendschmidt is still around. If you can play a deck that doesn't play any light monsters, why not side in the Light Imprisoning just for any light deck, It's kind of a no-brainer. And then we're also on 1 Harpy's Feather Duster and 1 copy of Ultimate Slayer. We're only on 1 Ultimate Slayer because we're on Thrust. And Ultimate Slayer in this deck can send Lynx, Xyz, and 1 copy of a Synchro Monster, which is quite useful because those are the main things you're realistically going to be trying to Ultimate Slayer. The main downside of playing Ultimate Slayer in this list is we're not playing Fiendschmidt, so we can't send a Desiree for fusions. Although, again, not the end of the world. But that is going to be about it for the profile. Thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you are able to do with Mitsurugi, and I'll be seeing you all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh! Players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.